Every driver has seen something strange on the road, but some roads hide nightmares you can't drive away from. Story 1. They call this particular stretch of I-80 the Boneyard. 80 miles of Wyoming high desert that feels like driving across the moon. I've been hauling freight for 15 years, and I hate this run more than any other. It's not the loneliness. I'm used to that. It's the way the darkness out here feels. Heavy. Alive. Last night, the feeling was worse than ever. The air was dead calm, and the only sound was the drone of my Kenworth's engine. My thermos was empty, and the radio was just static. Around 2 a.m., I saw the lights. Not headlights. They were faint, single orbs of pale blue light, hovering just above the sagebrush about a half-mile off the road. They danced, weaving in slow, impossible patterns. I've seen my share of strange things, heat lightning, atmospheric weirdness, but this was different. They moved with a purpose I couldn't decipher. I kept my foot steady on the accelerator. Rule 1 out here: you don't stop for anything you can't explain. 10 miles later, I saw him. A hitchhiker. He was a skinny kid, maybe early 20s, wearing a denim jacket that looked too thin for the cold night air. He had his thumb out, but he wasn't looking at me. He was staring straight ahead, his face illuminated for a second by my headlights. His expression was utterly vacant, like a mannequin. I blew past him at 70 miles an hour. It's not my job to pick up strays. The road stretched on. The hypnotizing rhythm of the highway markers ticking by nearly lulled me into a trance. That's when the CB crackled to life. It wasn't a voice, just a sound. A strange, melodic whistling, like a bird call played in reverse. It made the hairs on my arms stand up. Then I passed the hitchhiker again. Same kid, same jacket, same dead-eyed stare into the darkness. It was impossible. There were no turnoffs, no way he could have gotten ahead of me. My heart hammered against my ribs. I gripped the wheel, my knuckles white. This wasn't right. The blue lights started dancing again in my periphery, closer this time. I floored it. I didn't look back. I just drove, watching the endless black asphalt swallow my headlights. When the first lights of the Little America truck stop finally broke the horizon, it felt like I had surfaced from underwater. I pulled into the lot, my hands shaking so badly I could barely kill the engine. In the diner, I saw an old-timer named Mac stirring his coffee. "Rough night on the Boneyard?" he asked without looking up. I just nodded, unable to speak. He took a slow sip. "Saw the lights, did ya? Maybe the kid in the denim jacket?" He finally looked at me, his eyes tired and knowing. "Some roads, they remember things. They hold on to echoes. Best you can do is drive on through and pray the echoes don't decide to hold on to you." Story 2. The last ride on Highway 17. I've driven the stretch of Highway 17 for years. Long, empty, and lined with pines that whisper when the wind kicks up. Most truckers avoid it after dark, but deadlines don't care about superstition. That's how I found myself hauling a load of furniture through the dead of night, the highway swallowing my headlights whole. Around midnight, the radio fizzled into static. Then I saw her. A girl in a tattered yellow dress stood under a lone street lamp, her thumb out like she was waiting for a ride. Nobody hitchhikes on 17. Not anymore. Not since that bus full of kids went off the bridge back in '89. I slowed despite myself. My rig's brakes groaned as I rolled to a stop. The cab's interior lights flicked on when I opened the passenger door. She climbed in without a word. "Where you headed?" I asked. She just stared ahead, water dripping from her hair. Odd, since it hadn't rained. Her skin was pale, too pale, like something left underwater too long. The radio crackled to life. A static, choked voice mumbled, "Turn around." I reached to adjust it, but she grabbed my wrist. Her grip was freezing. "Don't," she whispered. Her lips didn't move. My gut twisted. Up ahead, the road dipped into a fog so thick it looked solid. The girl's breath fogged the window, her fingers pressing against the glass. Then I saw them. Handprints, small ones, rising from the inside. A wrecked bus loomed in the mist. The girl turned to me, her eyes hollow. "You should have stopped." The rig's engine died. The headlights flickered, illuminating figures standing along the roadside. Faces bloated, clothes soaked. Hands pressed against my windshield, smearing water like they were pushing through. I yanked the wheel, tires screeching, and the rig lurched sideways. Glass shattered. Cold, wet hands seized my arms, pulling me into the dark. The last thing I heard was the sound of distant sirens, and the girl whispering, "We've been waiting so long." They found my rig in the river the next morning. The doors were locked from the inside. And on the passenger seat, a puddle of swamp water, and a single small handprint on the glass. Story 3. The ribbon of asphalt unspooled before me, a lonely gray river cutting through the inky desert. My headlights carved out a meager pocket of the world, just enough to see the dashed center line flicker past like a fever pulse. It was my third straight night on this haul, and the coffee had long since stopped working. I was running on fumes and the low hypnotic thrum of the engine. That's when I saw the light. Not headlights. This was a single sickly yellow orb, floating about 10 feet off the ground just ahead on the right shoulder. It bobbed gently, a will-o'-the-wisp in the wasteland. I eased off the accelerator, my tired brain trying to logic it out. A kid with a lantern? A weird reflection? As I drew closer, the light seemed to solidify, and a figure resolved beneath it. A woman, her back to me, one arm outstretched with a thumb hooked in the universal plea for a ride. Her dress was out of place, a summer sundress that belonged at a picnic, not on a frigid desert highway. My foot hovered over the brake. Every instinct, every trucker's tall tale screamed at me to keep going. But the sheer loneliness of the scene got to me. What if she was real? What if she was in trouble? I sighed, my rig hissing as I pulled to a stop about 20 yards past her. I cranked the passenger window down, the cold night air biting at my face. In my side mirror, I watched her approach. She didn't run. She didn't even seem to walk. She just glided, the yellow light moving with her, illuminating her from above but casting no shadow on the ground. Her face, when it appeared at the window, was pale and smoothed of any real feature, like a statue worn by rain. Her eyes were too dark. "How far are you going?" I asked, my voice rough. She smiled, a slow, stretching motion that didn't reach those depthless eyes. "Just to the crossroads." Her voice was the sound of dry reeds whispering together. I nodded, too spooked to speak, and hit the unlock button. The door swung open of its own accord with a groan of tired hinges. She climbed in, bringing with her the scent of old dust and dry soil. The cab temperature plummeted. I pulled back onto the road, my knuckles white on the wheel. I could feel her staring at me, but I didn't dare look over. "You're kind," she whispered. "Most don't stop." "Yeah, well," I mumbled. We drove in silence for what felt like an hour. The only sound was the drone of the engine and the low crackle of the CB, spitting out bursts of static. I finally chanced to glance. She was just sitting there, hands folded in her lap, staring straight ahead. But the scenery outside was wrong. The distant mesa I'd been using as a landmark was gone. The road itself seemed narrower, older, the asphalt cracked and bleached. "The crossroads are coming up," she said, her voice now a hollow echo in the confined space. I looked, but saw nothing, just more endless, empty desert. "Right here is fine," she insisted. I stopped the truck. She turned that placid, empty face to me. "A word of advice," she rasped. "Don't stop for anyone who doesn't cast a shadow." And then she was gone. Not out the door. She just wasn't there anymore. The passenger seat was empty, the door still locked. The only evidence she'd been there was the lingering chill and the faint, sweet smell of turned earth. I slammed the gas, my heart hammering against my ribs. I drove until the sun bled over the horizon, painting the desert in safe, sane colors. At a crowded truck stop diner, over a plate of greasy eggs, I told an old-timer at the counter about the woman in the sundress. He stopped chewing, his weathered face going grim. He didn't call me crazy. He just nodded slowly. The Crossroads Bride. She's been trying to get home since '59. He looked out the window at the highway. Consider yourself lucky. Some say she doesn't ask for a ride. She just gets in. He tapped his temple. And shows you how she died. I never took that stretch of road again. Some highways aren't just paved with asphalt. They're paved with memories, and some of them are still desperate for a ride.